Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Hannon from HMH Marketing, and I help companies build strategic analyst relations programs and understand the evolving analyst ecosystem. And I'm really excited today. We're going to talk about AI in sales and marketing and how it's reshaping how buyers buy and how we sell. Today, I am going to be talking to Josh Trujillo. I met him earlier this year, and we talked a lot about how to make AI is making it easier, creating more efficient processes, especially for sales and for marketers. Josh has a mechanical engineering background and was recently a sales manager in the space industry before he launched his own company, Gilly Reach. And Gilly Reach is an AI powered prospecting and lead gen platform for B2B sales teams. So I'm really excited to have this conversation and learn from Josh. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John. Yeah, so I'll just give a quick background as to what Gilly Reach does. At its core level, we help businesses find customers. And the way that we do that is we process very, very large amounts of data and match sales teams to customers based on what they actually do. So if you sell a very niche product or service to where maybe there's only 2,000 companies in the world that could potentially use the product. We specialize in finding you as many potential customers as possible that are incredibly qualified. And then on top of that, we're layering on some intent as well. So what that means, let's say you only sell to buyers at a very specific time. Like if you sell commercial real estate and you want to know when a company's growing and is likely to buy another facility, we're able to provide you signals that would just increase the likelihood of you getting in touch with them at the right time.
That's great. I love this. I feel like the AI is flipping so much on its head and making it easier, but also there are new companies like yourself making it easier and more efficient, finding the right people at the right time, which is only going to decrease your sales cycle, right? Ideally.
Yeah, I think it will just make reps and just organizations in general a lot more efficient in who they go after. You're not going to spend as much time chasing your tail. And also you'll figure out pretty quickly if you're leaving money on the table. Just the speed of information today is so good. And you're going to be able to identify prospects with a lot greater precision and maybe find some more niche companies that you didn't even know existed in the first place.
Right. And probably the right context or just
Yeah.
more ecosystem versus spending months and months trying to get to the right, decision maker. You probably can get that a lot quicker.
Yep. Yeah, that's the goal at least. So yeah, that's
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's just jump in at a high level. Let's talk about LLMs. What does it even mean? Like, can you break it down in kind of simple language? Why does this matter right now?
Yeah, sure. So everyone's hears AI, AI, AI. Really what it is, it's machine learning that's been scaled up at a size that's like kind of difficult to wrap your head around. So most people when they think AI, they think like ChatGPT. That's what we call a large language model. Essentially what that is you have a machine learning algorithm that's been trained to just predict the next three tokens or next three characters in text. And it does that quite intelligently. So these things are, they've read pretty much every internet available article that man's ever written. And using that, they're able to create a pretty large, I guess, knowledge base. And they use that to predict text. So you can answer your questions, it can do research for you. But that's what most people think of as AI. The algorithm itself has been around for quite a while. Like it was invented in the 1800s. What's really different is our ability to compute. The transistor getting as small as it did has been incredible for this technology race, and then just the decision to like hyperscale this stuff. So people are pouring billions of dollars, and really what they're doing is they're just adding more. They're making larger and larger matrices that these neural nets can compute on. So yeah, that's really the big difference. And there's also been some like algorithmic improvements to transformer and whatnot, but I would say the big difference is scale and investment.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't, the investment isn't going away. It's just going to
No, no.
accelerate.
Yeah, I mean,
Right. And
there's like a meme going around right now. It's Oracle. Yeah, I think it was Oracle gave OpenAI like $100 billion. They spent that $100 billion to Nvidia, and then the market
Mhm.
cap of like the entire space increased by $100 billion. Yeah, the amount of money that's getting thrown around is pretty incredible right now. So
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Well, let's talk a little bit about AI specifically in sales and marketing. What's going on right now? What's changed? What do you see changing? What's working? What could you do now that you couldn't do before?
um, I would say the big difference is that this technology is just getting infusing a lot more software. When this first kind of came out, the most you could do is like you draft an email on Gmail with like the little star button or whatever. Now we're quite a ways beyond that, I would say. One of the biggest breakthroughs is on the content generation side with Sora 2 coming out. Now you can spin up fairly high quality video just off of a prompt. Image generation as well. Although it's still like kind of obvious that it's AI, you can do some really fun stuff with that. And I've used it personally for some of my own marketing material. That's one big thing. And then the other side that I kind of touched on earlier is just the ability to handle large volumes of unstructured data. So this has been around for quite a while in some other spaces. The whole vibe coding craze, like this is kind of like the basis of that, is the ability, these large language models are able to like all through GitHub take all the code that was on there and then make sense of it. Now I'm starting to see the same thing happen in sales, to where you can go visit, like Gilly Reach has visited over 5 million web pages this month, and we've taken all that data and structured it now and made it really, really searchable. So that's going to start changing how sales teams identify opportunities, marketing teams as well, especially for, I don't know, the services industry, things where you have a very particular buyer. Now you're able to pick that needle out of a haystack and really focus your sales and marketing efforts on just those guys and not waste a bunch of time targeting people that would never really need your product in the first place.
Just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. Now it's a lot more targeted. And then you can use AI for your content, your email, really specific, personalized content and communication. So it doesn't feel like it's just a broad
Yeah, yeah.
communication.
I've actually found that like AI writing emails is like not very good. It's just, I can always tell like it just feels a bit off, but it's really good at like giving you context as to like what to say. Because you like, especially in sales, like, and marketing as well, you really only have like so much of someone's attention to like get your value across. And this allows you to do your homework a lot better, towards like, okay, like I know these guys make this product, they're at this stage, these are likely some problems that they're running into, and this is where my business kind of fits into that picture. So you're better, now you're in a much better position to answer that question.
And how accurate would you say, if you compare searching, prospecting on ChatGPT, Cloud, Perplexity versus Gilly Reach, like accuracy, efficiency, how do you compare that?
So I'd say the accuracy is fairly comparable to either of those. So we're GPT wrapper. We use OpenAI's ChatGPT as like part of our core product. But the big difference is really our data. That GPT, like they can identify the companies, sure, but they won't be able to give you specific individuals at those organizations. We really just like close the loop and we have it as one complete package. So you're not bouncing around for 3 or 4 different tools. In terms of accuracy, I would say we're on par with those guys. And then that's really our big differentiator, as well as some of the other data brokers on the market, is instead of like trying to guess what industry or keyword you should use to find your ideal customers, we kind of abstract that away and do a lot of that for you. And the way that we search even is quite similar to how Perplexity or OpenAI just handles data and makes it really readily available. Like a lot of the technology's kind of been inspired by what they do, and we've just wrapped it into a sales specific data set.
Great. Yeah. And I would imagine that you have a lot of information, right? Name, title, email.
Yeah, you get LinkedIn profiles. That's based off of titles of who you should be talking to. And then you'd also get emails, phone numbers as well. So it's the same business intelligence level data you would expect, but the main difference here is that you're getting much better front end targeting instead of just kind of guessing and checking or doing your own
Right.
research and coming into a platform like this to take the data out. The platform that Gilly Reach is smart enough to do that with you, to even elevate the level of research you could do prior. Asking questions all the time. I guess I'm still kind of in the early stages of this, but my first few customers, I was just doing business development marketing on behalf of them, and I had no idea what they sold. I'm coming into it as essentially like a new hire, and yeah, I was able to be quite effective from day one, just because I was able to have that extra level of intelligence and context into not only their business but their potential customers.
Oh, that's great. And I'm excited to dive into that and your story and why you started it too. But let's talk a little bit about AI powered search and content. I've been diving into this a lot, especially with, I feel like marketing is being flipped on its head. Your content strategy is going to change, your brand communication. Not everything is going to change. It's going to be a little bit different because you're writing for, right, the algorithm. You're writing to be found. You want to be found. You want to have the right structured data, content information, trustworthy, all this. So can you talk a little bit about how that works with AI search? So if I'm a company, if I'm a vendor, I want to make sure I show up when someone queries. What does that process look like? What should I be thinking about?
I'd say the base fundamentals of it are still SEO, and I'll kind of break it down into a few tiers. Like if you're a massive company, like you're McDonald's, let's just say, the model is going to be trained on who you are. it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. You don't really have to spend that much extra effort because your online presence and like just your cultural presence is so big.
Mhm.
But let's say you're an up and comer, or maybe you're like mid market, you're not quite at that level. The SEO still goes quite a long ways, but there's some nuance to that. So you still want to be backlinked in from like reputable places, and the position in which you show up on Bing search, because that's what OpenAI uses, is not Google, it's Bing, and that changes per provider. Like obviously Google uses Google. I believe
Right.
Perplexity has their own search engine. People suspect it's run by Brave, but yeah, neither here nor there. Yeah, Bing, especially because that's the most popular model, that's going to be huge on where you show up there. But
Okay.
once you're kind of in that top 20, the rest of it is more so about like what your content actually means. So these are the popular keywords. I'm just going to spam these in my content
Right.
and optimize for BM25, just because you're using a fundamentally different algorithm. So what'll happen is the model, if it doesn't know enough about you just off of its training data, it'll do a Bing query. Then it'll take like the top 20, let's say, load it all into its context window and try and answer your question or get at the piece of knowledge as best as it possibly can. If you have quality content on your page that answers frequently asked questions by your ideal customer, and you have enough like presence on these search engines, the likelihood of you showing up is much higher. Optimizing for that is probably the best bang for your buck, and it's the quickest feedback time because these models, they're not trained every day. They're trained right now, I would say like 4 times a year, just because people are constantly updating and rolling things out. But the these searches happen every day. So it's much better to optimize for that in the short term. And then once your brand is big enough to be able like so the model can actually be trained on you and learn about you, then you're in a much different position.
That's interesting because I've been looking at like there's some AI search vendors. There's a lot of them out there, and they're able to query a lot and see who comes up and then where they're pulling from those sources. Like you said, credible sources. I know like G2, Reddit, Bing, and then also being visible in trusted media sources or trusted analyst reports is really important. And then in content, it's interesting because while you still need the SEO strategy, you do need to layer. It has to be clear and user friendly. The Q&A format seems to be working for some companies, and having a comprehensive hub for potential queries. So that I think that's something different that people haven't really thought about. It was just marketing message, marketing message, marketing message, but you don't want the AI search to just pull your marketing message. You really want to help that customer down the funnel with more detailed, more products, even more technical content that you might not even have yet.
The discovery side of this, at least especially like in the B2B space, is kind of that's a lot of the times just happens in ChatGPT. Like I've bought products from there I didn't even know existed. I didn't even know the problem existed until I ran into it, and then I just asked ChatGPT how to answer like solve that problem, and it not only provided me a solution, but vendors actually doing that thing. Clarity is a big deal, and the question and answer format is quite good as well, just because most people tend to ask questions to these models. So it essentially creates a vector representation of what that question is, and it's looking to find things that are semantically similar to that. So if you ask a question, like if I ask a question and you have that same question on your website, or at least a similar, doesn't have to be exact word for word, but a similar like style of question, the chances of that answer coming in, if it's from a reputable source, are very high. I would say that's the key optimization is the semantics of what you're actually trying to say and matching that up to like common questions that your ideal customer would ask.
Have you found a way to find those common questions that ideal customers will ask, or is that just like trial and error?
The stage of my business to where I'm at is not there to where it makes sense. And
Right,
I
right.
didn't really even cross that bridge yet.
No, it's all good. So I've been using it. Well, I'll ask different questions, and then I want everything sourced because I want my goal is to find what's influencing the algorithm. Where is it pulling from, and are my clients showing up? And if they're not, why aren't they showing up? What kind of content do we need to prioritize and create so that we do show up? So,
Yeah.
but I know there's some vendors out there like Profound AI and Bluefish and some other vendors that do that. And I'll have to let you know because I'm just starting to explore with those vendors.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I'm always open to suggestions, especially if you could short circuit a lot of the SEO process and yeah, just
right?
yeah, leapfrogging people by like going where people actually are, not necessarily playing around with outdated tactics would be sweet.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's going to evolve pretty fast in the
Yeah.
next year or two. Okay, let's talk a little bit. I keep hearing about AI SDRs. What exactly is that? And what should people know about that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's like SDR is a sales development rep. They essentially find and engage prospects and try and qualify them and bring them further down the sales funnel, right? So it's like, um, if I sell, I don't know, tires, um, and I want to sell to automotive manufacturers, I would reach out to people who would potentially spec my product, identify them, try and build some sort of relationship with them, and then just move them down to the next stage, whether that's like I'm having a formal meeting with us or doing whatever. So a lot of people are trying to throw AI at this role. From like a pure engineering standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. It's I think because so many people are doing this and you have so many of these companies spinning up, a lot of that's just going to get lost in the noise. If you're getting solicited 30 times a day, you're much less likely to pay attention to any of them. And not to say that it's impossible. I think the key to making this work is just like finding the right buyer at a company level, the right potential, like the right decision makers in that sales cycle, and then showing value as quickly as possible. So it's really just like sales 101. Like you
Right.
would tell a person how to do this. The big difference is like it's automated now, and you have like an incredibly smart model with like no common sense trying to do this. So yeah, but there's a few
Is that
different
why I'm
like
getting like all of these emails in my LinkedIn and emails saying, I can help you with 100 leads or whatever it is? And it's so generic. And I get like to 10 of them a week. And I couldn't tell you. I think they're fake. I don't even click on them. I'm like, is that
yeah.
why? Is that
Yeah, that's definitely a big piece of it. Like the barrier to be able to do that stuff's much lower now. You don't actually have to like learn how a lot of these tools work. You can just do it off of a prompt. It's just with marketing. People get solicited all the time. It's really just like how do you craft your message and do it well. And
right?
cold outreach is always hard. Just because you're inherently reaching out to people who don't want to be reached out to, and it's not in the
Right.
same flashy form that like commercial or some piece of like curated content would be. It's more so like just a direct message. So it feels personal, but that's kind of going away because so many people are doing it. It's
Right.
if you got one thank you card versus 1,000 thank you cards, you'd probably the value of them decreases the more that you get. But yeah, there's a few different approaches to it. I I think like the most tasteful way to do it is to just not try and like directly impersonate a human to the fullest extent. I'm seeing some companies roll out with like AI avatars that you can throw on a call with somebody, and it's just like a like an AI representation of a person. That just seems like creepy to me. I don't know.
Yes.
Like
AI shows up and you're like, who is this? And like, what are you doing?
yeah, yeah. So I think it's more so about like maybe extending yourself and like what capabilities that you can do. So you can treat it like an intern and maybe have it manage a few tasks that you don't necessarily want to do a lot of the grunt work. And I know
Right.
like for a lot of people sending messages is that like I I use automated email tools all the time, but just doing your homework on the front end and making sure that like the people that you're reaching out to, that it actually makes sense for them to be solicited. Because like
Right.
I'll use myself as an example. I had someone reach out to me the other day for like shipping and packaging equipment for my business. I sell software. I would never use that in a million years. But I had a data vendor reach out to me for like LinkedIn profile data. That was definitely something that I would use for my product, right? So like the latter, I was totally fine being solicited because it's something that I would actually use. So I think a lot of people feel that same way, right? If you have no issues seeing ads if it's something that you're actually interested in, and you
Right.
see yourself buying. Like it's quite useful at that case. If you're getting blasted with content that you would never use, then
It's
that's
just
obviously
annoying.
annoying. Yeah. So I think the targeting one makes a lot of the difference there, and then two, I don't think we should try and let AI completely mimic people. I think that's just weird. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not going to replace, it shouldn't replace the SDR. Maybe the SDR team will get smaller, but you use AI, like you said, as an assistant or as an intern, somebody to help you, something to help you get the emails, like scheduling, the putting into different Salesforce or CRMs, make it easier.
Yeah, I think the CRM automation is going to be awesome. I'm not personally tackling that with Gilly Reach just because my clientele is a bit smaller scale. That's more of a mid-market to large enterprise company problem. But yeah, the more of that can be automated to where you're not data entry monkey, that would be awesome.
That'd be so
And
nice
yeah,
for everything, right? I'm like thinking in marketing, like for everything, just to have one dashboard and not have to like manual input it. But then you also have to make sure it's accurate. So I think that's another hurdle. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But I'm hopeful for AI and sales and marketing, but I don't know if like the mass spam approach is going to be it. And a lot of these AI tools are built on top of like traditional targeting. there's a couple different things going on. One, I think a lot more people are starting businesses in the space,
Yep.
because like it's the hot new thing. And then
Yes.
two,
There's so much out there. It's just too much.
yeah, data is a lot more accessible now. But this has always been a thing. People have always been solicited. Ask any CEO; they get solicited more than anybody in the world. I think it hopefully will die down once the AI craze kind of tapers off. But yeah, well, and I imagine we'll also see new marketing channels open up just because these are going to get a lot more warm.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I actually think it'll be I feel like there's marketing does so much. They have so many different channels, and there's rarely enough time to go to one dashboard and actually see what's working and follow it through and then connect the dots with sales. I think there's a big gap. There's always been a gap with AI. Maybe that gap will lessen and we can kind of see what's actually working and focus on what's working versus spending dollars everywhere.
It gives you the ability. It gives people, non-technical people, the ability to work with numbers really, really well. A lot of people in sales and marketing, they're not math people. Like it's just,
Yes.
yeah, this just kind of comes with the territory. So
Yeah,
this
you rely on
gives,
a different department, you rely on different people, and that could take a while. And at the process, it takes forever versus just controlling it and being able to see it through.
yeah, exactly. You or I could analyze gigabytes of data with just a prompt. I imagine a lot of these products that are coming out will allow this. So, and even if you can't, just the ability to write a Python script to do it and spin it up,
Right.
you don't need to be super technical to do that anymore. So yeah, I imagine analytics is going to become a lot more commoditized. Just with marketing, you're dealing with very, very large volumes of data, especially if you're doing multiple channels and for big companies. The ability to sift through that really quickly and, like you said, identify like, hey, this is converting really well. We should double down on
Right.
this and maybe stop paying our social media intern to do TikTok or whatever it is.
Yeah, I like that. And so when you think about like email marketing and AI, what have you been doing? What has worked?
I think the big thing is people are getting really tired with all these AI startups. I'm doing this for on behalf of a few of those guys, and it's just a much harder problem. My company included, because they're getting people are just getting solicited by the stuff all the time. But I actually was running outbound for a different one of my clients, and they sell like a consulting service, and it was, wow, you're not selling me AI. Like, tell me more. So I think that's people are getting worn out with all the
Yeah.
outbound they're getting. But the other thing too that's really interesting is one of the best practices for, maybe not, maybe marketing is the wrong term, but like mass email outbound is downstream of targeting. If you know, like you already know who you want to get in touch with, really important to not pitch them right away. For a couple different reasons. One, it just feels a bit more human. Two, so machine learning is actually used by email providers on the other end to filter out spam. So, and they train it off of sales pitches. So if you're constantly leading with the sales pitch, you're going to constantly end up in spam. People aren't even seeing your message and it's game over. Trying to get around that as much as possible, like just trying to start a conversation, showing enough value in what you're actually doing, but not having it sound super pitchy. And then after they respond, if you can reply back to them, that's a really good time to hit a pitch, because the likelihood of you getting sent to spam on that second email is much, much lower. I would say like the biggest lesson I've learned, targeting solves a lot of these problems.
Yep.
That, and then just I feel tactical things here and there on how to get past the spam filter.
Right. That's such a good tip because I had a conversation virtually or on the phone, text with a potential client, and I sent a proposal and I hadn't heard back in like 2 weeks. And usually I follow up quickly, but I knew her. I knew she would respond, and we had been texting back and forth. And then I responded, and she was like right away, she's like, "This went right to spam," because I said I'm following up, and I guess that's a super salesy thing. So I stopped using that because I did end up in spam, and I had no idea that could even happen because
Mhm.
I had her email address. I had a conversation with her. Didn't know, think I would be filtered out, but I was. So I've stopped using. I'm following up
Yeah,
on blah blah blah. You know, I'm not
yeah,
doing that.
yeah. It's just things as simple as that. Especially, I imagine your domain's relatively new, like you just started your own marketing business. Mine is
Yep.
as well.
Yes.
You're kind of like guilty until proven innocent. So if you're an established business and you're emailing someone you've emailed 1,000 times, it's not as big of a deal. But
Okay.
if it's cold, or maybe it's like a new client, you met them in person, but Google doesn't know that. So whenever I run large outbound campaigns, I almost never use my own domain unless it's like to people who've opted into a newsletter or something. And the reason for that is it's just really risky. So like you could, let's say you bought a list online, it's from a lower quality vendor, or you're, yeah, working on outdated data. Maybe it's like your internal list, and let's say 30% of people on that list have churned, but or maybe jumped to a new company, but you're not sure which ones. If you're constantly running from your own domain and those emails are bouncing, you can actually damage your reputation, and that will increase the likelihood of you going to spam in the future. So warming your email up and maintaining warm up through your campaign is actually really important. I mean, what that does is you put your email into like a pool of other people using email marketing, and those emails will email back and forth automatically. So it simulates interaction. And what'll happen is
Sure.
Google or Outlook or whoever will look at that and say, "Hey, this email account sends 50 emails a day, but they get 20 replies." And they don't even have to be real replies; they just have to seem real enough, and it'll add credibility to your domain when you go and send emails. So that's another really big thing. And that takes some time. It take a couple weeks to warm up a domain to where you can actually start sending emails in mass. But
Right.
yeah, I would highly recommend doing that as well.
That's crazy. I didn't know that at all. That's really cool. So what I think we talked a little bit about this, but what AI tools have you tested? Which ones do you love? Which ones are worth just trying out?
I use Gilly Reach all the time, obviously. The smart lead, I wouldn't really classify them as an AI tool, even though they say .ai in the name. I mean, it's a high leverage way to send emails. They let you pre-schedule sends and whatnot. I use them very, very often. I think Instantly is doing some really good things as well, both
Okay.
from a list building perspective and also email outbound. And then yeah, just the basic ones like ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. But yeah, I use it primarily for programming, I would say. But yeah, that's
Okay.
not the purpose of this. We won't
Yeah.
jump into that.
No, I use Gilly Reach, and we're going to talk about that next. But using like ChatGPT for certain things, but I don't think the writing is as clear and crisp as Cloud. But I actually like creating. For me, it's great for brainstorming,
Yeah.
not for hey, write me blah blah blah. I like to brainstorm and then sit down and think about what I actually want to write it out, and then have AI give me a different format or give me formats for different channels, social media, LinkedIn, whatever, email. But let's talk about Gilly Reach. Why did you start Gilly Reach? And tell us a little bit about the history and how it's going.
I kind of started Gilly Reach by accident almost. I was working on a different startup. And I was doing enterprise sales at the same time. And at the time, like, I was just like, hasn't really made its way into marketing quite yet. And I was just having a hard time trying to target email marketing campaigns. So I initially just bought a bunch of data, put it through a for loop, and let OpenAI review each company and be like, hey, this is a good fit. Hey, this is a bad fit. Here's why. And then it would do that for all employees as well. Once I started doing that, the my marketing campaigns were much more effective because I was like getting out a lot of the bloat in my
Yeah.
campaign. So I was reaching out to high fit people immediately, which was a big difference. Drove traffic to my website up by like it's like 800% pretty much
Wow.
overnight, which was huge. So
Yeah.
I was that startup was failing, and I was looking for software tools that were doing a similar thing at the time, and I couldn't really find anything. So I hacked together a basic prototype, spun it out, and it got really, really good feedback. And it just felt like huge demand for this type of stuff. Just the ability to work with data really effectively in sales is how I would sum it up. So then I started building it, and it was awesome because I was in enterprise sales before this. I was selling seals for propulsion systems. Wasn't the most glamorous thing in the world, but prospecting was a really big deal, especially for us because the price of a seal is under
Yeah.
what your customers have to be willing to pay that price, and the seal has to provide enough value to even justify that, right? So like when we were going into new markets, I would probably spend 2-3 months just researching and prospecting. And yeah, it's just one of those things that's like non-obvious. Most companies don't list that, hey, we would use this on our website. So it was really like research intensive, and I kind of built Gilly Reach with that in mind of how do I streamline that process as much as possible. And yeah, now here we are. So
Cut time significantly, right? 2 to 3 months. That's a lot of time. Probably also saved you a lot of time throughout the whole sales process because you're actually targeting the right people.
yeah.
So that's efficiency operations. So a lot of cost and time saving.
Yeah. And the other side of it too is like I tested it against my old customer list. It surfaced 6 or 7 companies that would certainly buy our products that I didn't even know existed, that I know
Wow.
wasn't even on our company's radar. So not only from the operation side, but it also gives you the potential to maybe even bring more revenue in and find some of those like maybe less obvious accounts that would make a lot of sense for you to reach out to.
Right, that would probably take you months and months, or you might not even hear about it, or it might be word of mouth, somebody down the line, but a long time. That's great. I mean, that's so much value right there. I think that's the value, and it's super easy to use. And it's is it free to use, or what's kind of
Yeah, so right now we're in controlled beta. So if anyone wants to give it a try, like I'll give them a free trial. And after that, the pricing is $100 a month just to build these types of lists and have access to the database. So yeah, and I know you mentioned easy to use quite a bit. That's like pretty much core in the product because like a lot of the other offerings, like it takes a while to just like figure out how the filters work and how essentially how to be effective with the tool. With Gilly Reach,
Right.
like the model takes care of the vast majority of that. So like you're talking to a large language model and it will do all that on your behalf. So yeah, you don't have to worry about any of that complexity. You just have to be able to know who your customers are and be able to articulate it, which is a much lower bar than a
Yes.
lot of the existing tools out there. So
So give me an example of like like if I'm just an example of a prompt, something simple I can enter in that will give me a list.
yeah, so if you're using it for the first time, I'll give you more of like a prompt chain.
Okay.
So you can literally just say, "Hey, this is the company I work for." Provide a name. You can even just provide a URL of your company. Press send. It'll go crawl your website, get enough context, and then ask it, "Hey, who do you think would be some good potential customers for my business?"
Oh, so simple.
Yeah, it'll list them out and be like, "Hey, find me those." Easy as that. Free prompts, and you'll have a pretty high accuracy list just like that. That's like one of the more popular prompt chains and just more powerful for first time users. Yeah, and then after that, or let's say you already have a good idea of who your customers are and you're in more of like the discovery research phase, you could just say articulate it. You don't even have to provide specific companies. You could say, "Hey, I'm looking for this type of company and this type of like this job title at that organization," and say that and it'll be able to provide you lists off that as well.
That's great. Oh, well, this is great. I'm so happy that we were able to talk today. Is there anything before we close out, if people are trying to figure out their AI strategy, even if they're small business, midsize, or enterprise, do you have any advice for them?
Just try and keep it simple. I think there's a lot of people like myself out there trying to sell you on the next AI tool, and there's value out there for sure. Not trying to do everything all at once, being strategic about it, and picking what would be the highest impact thing that you can cross off, and
Right.
then cross reference that with what the technology is capable of doing today. Maybe
Right.
do it one piece at a time, not trying to do the whole thing at once. So yeah, just being methodical, spend time identifying what problems AI can even solve. And then I guess with that information in mind, looking at your own org and what's something that what ticks both those boxes, like yes, this is a big enough problem that we should solve it. And then yes, AI can do this with very minimum engineering time.
Right, right, and then track and measure, which is a whole different conversation. How do you actually measure your AI investment, right, over time? Because I
Yeah.
think that's a big thing people are dealing with right now. But Josh, this was so fun to talk to you about AI and sales and marketing. And if you want to try Gilly Reach, I'll put the link right here, and you can connect with Josh. And if you want to talk about AR, PR, AEO, talk to me, and I'll put my link up here. But Josh, thanks for joining us, and I hope we continue the conversation. And we'll see you soon.
Cool. Thank you, John. Thanks for having me. And